The car door flew open, and rough hands shoved Tasha Monroe into the December darkness. She hit the frozen ground hard, the impact knocking the breath from her lungs. Sharp gravel tore through the delicate fabric of her wedding dress, and she felt warm blood seep from her palms and knees. "Please," she gasped, scrambling to her feet, but the car was already moving. Through the rear window she caught a glimpse of Brad, the man she'd almost married just hours ago, staring straight ahead. His mother sat beside him, her face twisted in disgust. Neither looked back. The taillights disappeared around a bend, and then Tasha was alone. Completely, terribly alone. Snow began to fall in thick, heavy flakes. The wedding dress, already torn and dirty, offered no protection against the cold. Tasha's teeth started chattering immediately. She turned in a slow circle, trying to get her bearings, but saw nothing but dark trees and empty roads stretching in both directions. How far had they driven from the church? 20 miles? 30? She'd stopped paying attention after the screaming started, after Brad's mother had discovered the truth, after everything fell apart. Her phone was gone. They'd taken it from her clutch purse before throwing her out. No wallet, no money, no identification. Just the ruined dress, her grandmother's pearl earrings, and the engagement ring she should have returned but hadn't had the chance. Tasha's mind raced. She could die out here. People died of exposure all the time, especially on Christmas Eve when everyone was safe at home with their families. Nobody would be looking for her. Brad would tell everyone she'd run away, cold feet, left him at the altar. Who would question it? The snow fell harder. Already her dark skin felt numb, her fingers losing sensation. She had to move. Standing still meant freezing to death. She started walking, each step agony in the heels she'd chosen so carefully for her wedding day. The white satin was stained with blood and mud now. The veil had torn free somewhere during the struggle in the car. She wrapped her arms around herself and kept moving forward, because forward was the only direction that made sense. The road curved through dense forest. No houses, no lights, no sign of civilization. Just trees and snow and the growing dark. Tasha's breath came in short gasps, panic rising in her chest. This couldn't be happening. This morning she'd been getting her hair done, laughing with the stylist, thinking about her future. Now she was bleeding and freezing and alone. A wolf howled somewhere in the distance. Tasha's heart hammered. Were there wolves in this part of the state? She didn't know. She didn't know anything anymore. Everything she'd thought was real had turned out to be a lie. Brad had never loved her. The realization cut deeper than the cold. For 2 years she'd believed his sweet words, his promises, his plans for their future. She'd introduced him to her friends, brought him to family gatherings before her parents died, trusted him with her grief when the car accident took them. He'd held her through those dark months and she'd been so grateful for his steadiness, his support. But he'd only been waiting. Waiting to see what she'd inherit. Waiting to cash in on the wealthy family he thought he was marrying into. The lawyers' meeting yesterday had revealed the truth. No fortune. Just debt. Her parents had been living beyond their means for years, keeping up appearances while drowning in bills. The house would have to be sold. The cars were leased. Even the furniture was financed. Tasha had been devastated but not ashamed. Debt could be managed, could be paid off over time. She told Brad last night, expecting him to comfort her, to tell her they'd handle it together. Instead he'd gone silent. Then he'd excused himself to make a phone call. This morning, his mother had shown up at the church an hour before the ceremony. Tasha had heard the shouting from the bridal suite. Then Brad had come in, his face cold, and told her to get in the car. She'd thought they were going to talk privately, maybe postpone the wedding to deal with the financial revelations. She hadn't expected his mother in the front seat, or the way they'd driven past the church, past the city limits, past any reasonable stopping point. When she'd asked where they were going, Brad's mother had turned around and smiled. Somewhere appropriate for a gold digger. That's when Tasha had understood. They thought she'd lied. They thought she'd hidden the debt deliberately, trying to trap Brad into marriage before he found out. Nothing she said made any difference. They'd made up their minds. And then they'd thrown her out like trash. Tasha stumbled, her ankle turning on the uneven pavement. She caught herself on a road sign, leaving a smear of blood on the metal. Her vision blurred with tears that froze on her cheeks almost instantly. Keep moving. Don't stop. Don't think. Just move. The road climbed upward. Her legs burned with effort, but at least the movement kept her blood flowing. How long had she been walking? Half an hour? An hour? Time felt strange, stretched and compressed simultaneously. Then, through the trees ahead, she saw something. A light. Just one at first, then more. Tasha's heart leaped. A house. The town? She quickened her pace, ignoring the pain in her feet, the burning in her lungs. The trees thinned and she saw walls. High stone walls stretching in both directions, and beyond them, a building lit up like something from a fairy tale. Not a house. An estate. Massive and beautiful, with lights glowing in dozens of windows. Tasha reached the gates and grabbed the iron bars. Her hands left bloody prints on the metal. She tried to call out, but her voice came as barely a whisper. Her legs gave way and she sank to her knees in the snow, still clutching the gates. This was it. She couldn't go any further. Either someone would find her or they wouldn't. She'd done everything she could. The snow kept falling, covering her torn dress, her bleeding hands, her dark hair. Tasha's eyes drifted closed. She thought about her parents, wondered if she'd see them soon. Maybe that wouldn't be so bad. At least she'd be warm. Somewhere far away she heard a sound. A voice high and young. Then footsteps running through snow. "Daddy, Daddy, there's a princess at the gate." More footsteps, heavier. Hands on her shoulders, gentle but firm. "Miss? Can you hear me? We're going to help you." Tasha tried to answer but managed only a small sound. Strong arms lifted her and she felt herself being carried. The cold receded slightly, or maybe she was just too numb to feel it anymore. "Is she going to be okay, Daddy? We'll take care of her, Ruby. Go get Mrs. Chen quickly now." Tasha forced her eyes open for just a moment. She saw a little girl with curly blonde hair and worried eyes running ahead, and above her, the face of a man with dark hair and concerned brown eyes. Then everything faded to black and she knew nothing at all. Before we continue this story, I need to ask you something important. Have you ever felt completely abandoned by someone you trusted? Have you ever been at your lowest point wondering if anyone would help? Tasha's story is just beginning, and what happens next could change everything. If you want to see how this Christmas Eve transforms her life, please subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think Nathan should do next. Would you help a stranger in a torn wedding dress on Christmas Eve? Warmth. That was the first thing Tasha noticed when consciousness crept back. Warmth and softness beneath her, so different from the frozen ground. She tried to open her eyes, but her lids felt heavy, reluctant. Is she waking up? The voice was small and hopeful. A child. Give her space, Ruby. Mrs. Chen said she needs rest. This voice was deeper, masculine, with a note of gentle authority. Tasha managed to crack her eyes open. Blurry shapes resolved into a bedroom, elegant but comfortable, decorated in soft creams and blues. She lay in a large bed with thick blankets piled over her. Her hands were bandaged and she wore unfamiliar clothes, a soft nightgown that definitely wasn't hers. A little girl stood at the foot of the bed, bouncing slightly on her toes. She couldn't have been more than 5, with golden curls pulled into pigtails and eyes that sparkled with curiosity. She wore red pajamas with reindeer on them. Beside her stood a man, tall and lean, maybe in his mid-30s. Dark hair, brown eyes that held both concern and caution. He wore jeans and a green sweater, casual but clearly expensive. His hand rested protectively on the little girl's shoulder. "You're awake," the man said, his expression softening. "That's good. You had us worried. I'm Nathan Castellano and this is my daughter Ruby. You collapsed at our gate." Memory flooded back. The car, the cold, the desperate walk through the snow. Tasha tried to sit up and pain shot through her palms and knees. She gasped. "Careful," Nathan said, moving closer. "You have cuts and bruises. Nothing serious, according to Mrs. Chen, our housekeeper, but you need to take it easy. You had mild hypothermia. Another hour out in that cold." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "I found you," Ruby announced proudly. "I was looking out my window for Santa's sleigh, and I saw you at the gate. You look like a princess from one of my storybooks, but a sad one. Daddy carried you all the way to the house." "Ruby," Nathan said gently, "maybe we shouldn't overwhelm our guest." "It's okay," Tasha whispered, her throat raw. "Thank you. Both of you. I don't know what would have happened if—" "Don't think about that now," Nathan said. He pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down, maintaining a respectful distance. "Can you tell me your name? Do you have family we should call?" Tasha's chest tightened. "I'm Tasha. Tasha Monroe. And no family to call." "What about the wedding?" Ruby asked, pointing at something across the room. Tasha turned her head and saw her ruined dress hanging over a screen in the corner, clean but still torn and stained. Mrs. Chen tried to save it, but she said some things can't be fixed. "Are you a runaway bride? Like in the movies?" "Ruby," Nathan's voice held a note of reproach. "It's okay," Tasha said again. She looked at the little girl's innocent face and felt something crack inside her chest. She'd been holding everything together through pure survival instinct, but now, safe and warm, the reality of what had happened crashed over her. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping at her face with the back of her bandaged hand. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't be crying. You've been so kind and I'm just—" "You don't have to apologize," Nathan said quietly. "Whatever happened to you tonight, it's clear it was traumatic. You're safe here. That's what matters right now." Ruby climbed up on the edge of the bed, ignoring her father's warning look. "Don't be sad. Daddy says Christmas Eve is magical, and magic makes bad things turn good. Maybe your story will have a happy ending too." Despite everything, Tasha felt a small smile tug at her lips. "Maybe. Do you need anything?" Nathan asked. "Food? Water? We can call a doctor if you're in pain." "Water would be nice," Tasha admitted. Her throat felt like sandpaper. Nathan stood and poured water from a pitcher on the nightstand. He helped her sit up carefully, adjusting pillows behind her back, then handed her the glass. The water was cool and perfect, and Tasha drank deeply. "Thank you," she said when she'd finished. She looked at Nathan directly for the first time. His eyes were kind, she realized. Concerned but not intrusive. "You must think I'm crazy showing up at your gate in a wedding dress on Christmas Eve." "I think you're someone who needed help," Nathan replied simply. "The rest is your business unless you want to share it." "My ex-fiancé and his mother dumped me on a back road," Tasha heard herself say. The words came easier than she'd expected. "They found out I don't have money, and they decided I wasn't worth keeping around. They took my phone, my wallet, everything. I walked until I found your gate." Ruby's eyes went wide. "That's so mean. Like the evil stepmother in Cinderella." Nathan's jaw tightened. "They left you on the side of the road in this weather?" Tasha nodded. "I suppose they thought I deserved it. They think I lied about having money, that I was trying to trap Brad. My fiancé, ex-fiancé. But I never lied. I just didn't know the truth myself until yesterday. Even if you had lied, which I don't believe for a second, no one deserves to be abandoned like that," Nathan said, his voice hard. "That's not just cruel, it's dangerous. Criminal, actually." "I don't want to press charges or make trouble," Tasha said quickly. "I just want to forget the whole thing happened." "That's your choice," Nathan said, his voice softening again. "But at minimum we should report them to the police. What they did was attempted manslaughter at the very least." Tasha shook her head. "Please. I just want to move on. I'll figure out how to get back to the city tomorrow. I have friends who can help me. If you could just let me stay tonight, I'll be out of your way in the morning." "It's Christmas Eve," Ruby said, looking horrified. "You can't leave on Christmas Eve. Santa won't know where to find you and you'll be all alone, and that's the saddest thing ever." Nathan smiled slightly at his daughter's dramatic concern, but his expression remained serious when he looked back at Tasha. "Ruby has a point. Not about Santa necessarily, but about being alone on Christmas. You've been through a trauma. You shouldn't be rushing off anywhere. Stay through the holidays. Rest. Bill. We have plenty of room." "I couldn't impose like that," Tasha protested. "You've already done so much." "You're not imposing," Nathan said firmly. "You're accepting help when you need it. There's a difference. Besides, Ruby would never forgive me if I sent you away on Christmas Eve." "Never, ever, ever," Ruby confirmed solemnly. Tasha felt fresh tears threatening. "I don't know what to say. You don't even know me." "We know you needed help and we have the means to provide it," Nathan said simply. "That's enough. Now, are you hungry? Mrs. Chen makes incredible soup." As if summoned, the door opened and a woman in her 60s entered, carrying a tray. She had kind eyes and moved with quiet efficiency. "I heard voices. Good you're awake. I'm Mrs. Chen. I've brought you some broth and bread. Light food until your stomach settles." She set the tray on Tasha's lap, adjusting it carefully. The soup smelled amazing, rich and warming. "Thank you," Tasha said. "Thank you all so much. I promise I'll find a way to repay you." "No need," Mrs. Chen said briskly. "Just eat and rest. That's payment enough." Ruby watched Tasha eat with obvious satisfaction, chattering about Christmas plans and presents and whether it would snow more overnight. Nathan listened patiently, occasionally redirecting his daughter's enthusiasm, but his eyes kept returning to Tasha with a thoughtful expression. When Tasha finished eating, exhaustion hit her like a wave. Her eyelids grew heavy and she struggled to keep them open. "Sleep," Nathan said gently, standing and ushering Ruby toward the door. "We'll check on you later. There's a bell on the nightstand if you need anything." Wait, Tasha called as they reached the door. What? Why are you helping me? You don't know anything about me. Nathan paused, looking back at her. Because it's the right thing to do. Because no one should be alone and hurting on Christmas Eve. Because my daughter has a good heart and I want to teach her that kindness matters. Pick whichever reason you like best. He smiled just a little and then they were gone, the door closing softly behind them. Tasha lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. Hours ago, she'd been certain her life was over. She'd been freezing and bleeding and utterly hopeless. Now she was warm and safe in a stranger's home, being cared for by people who owed her nothing. Maybe Ruby was right. Maybe Christmas Eve really was magical. Maybe bad things could turn good. Or maybe this was just a brief respite before reality crashed back in. Either way, for tonight at least, Tasha was grateful. She closed her eyes and let sleep take her, and for the first time in days she didn't dream of Brad or his mother or the wedding that never happened. She dreamed of a little girl with golden curls and a man with kind brown eyes, and she woke on Christmas morning feeling almost like herself again. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow and pale sunlight streaming through the bedroom windows. Tasha woke slowly, disoriented for a moment before memory returned. The Castellano estate. Nathan and Ruby. Safety. She sat up carefully, testing her injuries. The cuts on her hands and knees still stung, but the bandages were fresh. Someone must have changed them while she slept. Her muscles ached from the long walk through the cold, but nothing felt seriously wrong. On a chair near the bed, Tasha found clothes folded neatly. A soft blue sweater, jeans that looked close to her size, warm socks. A note lay on top in neat handwriting. These belong to my sister. She won't mind you borrowing them. Bathroom is through the door on the left. Come downstairs when you're ready. No rush. It was signed simply, N. Tasha showered carefully, keeping her bandaged hands as dry as possible. The hot water felt amazing on her sore muscles. She dressed in the borrowed clothes, which fit reasonably well, and studied herself in the mirror. She looked tired, with shadows under her brown eyes and her hair in need of proper styling, but alive. That was something. She followed the sound of voices downstairs, through a hallway decorated with tasteful Christmas garlands and paintings that looked like actual originals, not prints. The house was even more impressive in daylight. High ceilings, elegant furniture, but somehow still comfortable, lived in. This was a home, not just a showplace. The voices led her to a large living room dominated by a massive Christmas tree. Ruby sat on the floor in front of the fireplace, surrounded by opened presents. She wore a bright green dress and sparkly shoes. When she saw Tasha, her face lit up. You're awake. Merry Christmas. Look what Santa brought me. She held up a doll, a book, and what looked like an art set. Daddy said we had to wait to open presents until you woke up, but I got to do my stocking. Nathan stood by the tree wearing dark jeans and a red sweater. He smiled when he saw Tasha. Merry Christmas. How are you feeling? Better, Tasha said honestly. The clothes fit perfectly. Thank you. My sister is about your height, Nathan said. She lives in California now, but she keeps things here for when she visits. She won't mind. Come sit down. Have you eaten? Mrs. Chen made breakfast and there's plenty left. I don't want to interrupt Christmas morning, Tasha protested, but Ruby was already pulling her toward the couch. You're not interrupting. You're part of it. Daddy, tell her she has to stay for breakfast at least. Nathan's eyes held amusement. You heard the boss. No arguments. Mrs. Chen appeared with a loaded plate. Scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit, and something that smelled like cinnamon. Tasha accepted it gratefully, suddenly realizing how hungry she was. The soup last night had been light. She ate while Ruby showed her every present in detail, explaining the story behind each one. Nathan watched his daughter with obvious affection, occasionally correcting her more creative embellishments. The whole scene felt so normal, so warm, that Tasha almost forgot how she'd arrived here. After breakfast, Ruby insisted on building something with her new blocks. Nathan helped her while Tasha watched from the couch, comfortable and full. The fire crackled in the fireplace and soft Christmas music played from somewhere. Can Tasha help too? Ruby asked suddenly, looking up at her father. If she wants to, Nathan said. But remember, her hands are still healing. I can supervise, Tasha offered. I'm great at supervising. Ruby giggled and patted the floor beside her. Sit here. You can tell me if I'm doing it right. Tasha lowered herself to the floor, moving carefully. Ruby immediately started explaining her elaborate plan for a castle with towers and a bridge. As they worked, she peppered Tasha with questions. Do you have kids? Are you married? Where do you live? What's your favorite color? Ruby, Nathan said gently. That's a lot of questions. It's okay, Tasha said. She looked at Ruby's open, curious face. I'm not married. No kids. I lived with my parents but they passed away 6 months ago. And my favorite color is purple. That's a princess color, Ruby said approvingly. I'm sorry about your parents. That must be really sad. It is, Tasha admitted. But talking about them helps. What about you? What's your favorite color? Red, Ruby declared. Like my Christmas dress last night for church and like Daddy's sweater. Red is brave. Your mother's favorite color was red, Nathan said quietly, and Tasha heard the grief in his voice. Ruby's expression grew solemn. Mommy died when I was 3. I don't remember her very much, just little bits. But Daddy tells me stories and there are pictures everywhere. She was beautiful and kind and she would have loved you because you're kind too. Tasha felt her throat tighten. Thank you, sweetheart. That's a lovely thing to say. They built in comfortable silence for a while. Ruby hummed along to the Christmas music, completely absorbed in her creation. Nathan sat in a nearby chair, reading something on his phone but glancing up frequently to check on his daughter. How long have you lived here? Tasha asked eventually. 5 years, Nathan replied. I inherited the estate from my grandfather. It was too big at first but Ruby was just a baby and after my wife died I needed somewhere quiet. Somewhere she could grow up safely. It's a beautiful home, Tasha said sincerely. It can be lonely, Nathan admitted. Ruby's in kindergarten during the school year, and I work from home mostly. We have staff, but it's not the same as having family around. Daddy's sister visits sometimes, Ruby added. Aunt Patricia. She's really fun. She teaches me bad words but I'm not supposed to say them. Ruby, Nathan said but he was smiling. What? Ruby looked innocent. I said I don't say them. Tasha laughed, the sound surprising her. When was the last time she genuinely laughed? Weeks, maybe months. As the morning turned to afternoon, Tasha found herself relaxing more. Nathan suggested a Christmas movie, and they all settled on the couch to watch. Ruby snuggled against Tasha's side naturally, as if they'd known each other for years instead of hours. During a quiet moment in the movie, Ruby looked up at Tasha. Are you still sad about the mean people who left you in the snow? Tasha considered the question carefully. A little bit. But mostly I'm just glad I found your gate. Me too, Ruby said firmly. I think it was meant to be. Like in fairy tales. The princess always ends up where she's supposed to be. Maybe, Tasha said softly. When the movie ended, Mrs. Chen called them to the dining room for Christmas dinner. The table was set beautifully with candles and china and more food than 3 people could possibly eat. Tasha tried to help, but Mrs. Chen shooed her away. You're a guest. Sit. Dinner was amazing. Turkey and ham, mashed potatoes, 3 kinds of vegetables, fresh rolls, and desserts that looked too pretty to eat. Ruby chattered throughout the meal, her energy seemingly endless. Nathan listened patiently, occasionally steering the conversation when his daughter got too wild. Thank you for this, Tasha said during a quiet moment. All of it. I know you don't know me and I'm just some stranger who showed up, but this is the kindest thing anyone has done for me in a long time. You're not a stranger anymore, Ruby announced. You're our friend. Right, Daddy? Right, Nathan agreed, his eyes meeting Tasha's. And friends help each other. So no more thank yous. Just enjoy yourself. After dinner they returned to the living room. Ruby was finally showing signs of tiredness, curling up on the couch with a yawn. Nathan covered her with a blanket, and within minutes she was asleep. She had a big day, he said softly, settling into a chair across from Tasha. All the excitement wore her out. She's wonderful, Tasha said honestly. You've raised an amazing little girl. I try, Nathan said. It's not always easy alone. But she makes it worth it. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire. Finally, Nathan spoke again. Can I ask what happened? With your fiancé? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but sometimes it helps to talk. Tasha took a breath. We were together for 2 years. Brad Coleman. He seemed perfect at first. Attentive, supportive, everything I thought I wanted. He helped me through my parents' death and I was so grateful. When he proposed, I said yes without hesitation. She twisted the engagement ring she'd forgotten she was still wearing. But he was only interested in what he thought I had. My family always looked wealthy. Nice house, nice cars, social connections. What Brad didn't know was that it was all financed. My parents had been drowning in debt for years, keeping up appearances. And when he found out? Nathan asked gently. His mother found out first. She's the one who did the research, who discovered the truth about the estate. She told Brad yesterday, the day before the wedding. He confronted me last night and I explained everything. I thought he'd understand, that we'd figure it out together. Instead, he went silent. Tasha's hands clenched. This morning his mother showed up at the church. She told Brad he was making a mistake, that I was a gold digger, that I'd lied to trap him. Nothing I said mattered. They put me in the car, drove me out to the middle of nowhere and left me on the road. Brad's mother said it was where I belonged. That's horrible, Nathan said, his voice hard. That's beyond horrible. It's criminal. Maybe, Tasha said quietly. But mostly it's just humiliating. I trusted him. I thought he loved me. But he only loved what he thought I could give him. That's not a reflection on you, Nathan said firmly. That's a reflection on them. You dodged a terrible mistake. Better to find out now than after the wedding. I know that logically, Tasha admitted. But it still hurts. I feel stupid for not seeing the truth sooner. You're not stupid. You're human. We all want to believe the best in people we care about. Ruby stirred in her sleep, making a small sound. Nathan stood and gently lifted her, cradling her easily. I should put her to bed. But Tasha, you're welcome to stay as long as you need. A few days, a week, whatever helps. I mean that. I can't stay that long, Tasha protested. I've already imposed too much. You haven't imposed at all, Nathan said. Think about it at least. You've been through something traumatic. You deserve time to recover. He carried Ruby upstairs, leaving Tasha alone with her thoughts. She stared into the fire, turning the day over in her mind. 24 hours ago, she'd been certain her life was ending. Now she was sitting in a beautiful home, full of good food, warm and safe and cared for. Nathan Castellano barely knew her, yet he'd opened his home without hesitation. Ruby had accepted her presence with simple, childish joy. Even Mrs. Chin treated her like a welcome guest rather than an intruder. When Nathan returned, he found her still staring at the fire. He sat down quietly. I'll stay a few days, Tasha heard herself say. If you're sure it's no trouble. I need to figure out what comes next. Where to go, what to do. But I promise I'll be out of your way soon. Take all the time you need, Nathan said. And you're not in the way. Ruby already adores you, and honestly it's nice to have another adult around. The house feels less empty. They talked late into the night, sharing stories carefully. Nathan told her about his work in technology investment, about building the company his grandfather started into something much larger. About his wife, Elizabeth, who died from a sudden illness when Ruby was just a toddler. About learning to be both parents at once. Tasha told him about growing up as an only child, about studying art history in college, about the gallery job she'd quit to plan her wedding. About her parents' unexpected death and the shocking discovery of their debts. About feeling lost and alone for months. When they finally said goodnight, Tasha felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Just a small spark, but it was there. Maybe Ruby was right. Maybe Christmas Eve really was magical. Maybe this was where she was supposed to be, at least for now. 3 days after Christmas, Tasha sat in the estate's library, a book unopened in her lap. Through the tall windows, she watched snow fall softly over the grounds. Ruby was at a playdate with a friend from kindergarten, and Nathan was working in his office. The house felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. Tasha had called her best friend, Jennifer Torres, yesterday. Jennifer had been frantic, having received a text from Brad saying Tasha had run away. The relief in Jennifer's voice when Tasha explained what really happened had been overwhelming, quickly replaced by fury. I'm going to that church and telling everyone what they did, Jennifer had said. Brad's family can't just abandon people and face no consequences. Please don't, Tasha had asked. I just want to move forward. But she'd agreed to let Jennifer bring her some clothes and personal items from the apartment Tasha had shared with her roommate. They'd arranged to meet tomorrow at a coffee shop in the city, and Nathan had already offered to drive her. Now, sitting in the quiet library, Tasha found herself thinking about the last few days. The Castellano household ran on a gentle routine. Mornings with Ruby doing puzzles or coloring. Afternoons when Nathan emerged from his office for lunch, always making time to talk. Evenings gathered in the living room playing board games or watching movies. Mrs. Chin cooked meals that felt like home, and the housekeeper had somehow intuited exactly when Tasha needed company and when she needed solitude. Even the estate's groundskeeper, an older man named Thomas, had gone out of his way to be kind, clearing paths in the snow and making sure the bird feeders stayed full because Ruby liked to watch the cardinals. It was, Tasha realized, the most stable and caring environment she'd experienced in months. Maybe years. Her parents had loved her, but their marriage had been strained by financial stress toward the end. Brad had seemed attentive, but she saw now how conditional his care had been. The Castellanos asked nothing of her. They simply made space and offered kindness. The library door opened and Nathan stepped in. He wore jeans and a blue button-down shirt, casual but put together. He smiled when he saw her. "Sorry to interrupt. I needed a break from spreadsheets. Mind if I hide in here for a bit?" "It's your library," Tasha pointed out, but she smiled. "How's work?" "Boring but necessary," Nathan said, settling into a chair near hers. "Quarterly reports. My business partner handles most of the day-to-day operations now, but I still need to review everything." "What exactly does your company do?" Tasha asked. She'd been curious but hadn't wanted to pry. "Investment capital for technology startups," Nathan explained. "We find promising young companies and provide funding and mentorship. Some succeed, some fail, but we've had enough winners to do well." "That sounds exciting." "It can be. Though honestly, since Elizabeth died, I've stepped back from the travel and networking side. I can't leave Ruby for days at a time. She needs stability more than I need business deals." "She's lucky to have you," Tasha said softly. Nathan looked at her for a long moment. "Can I ask you something? You don't have to answer if it's too personal." "Okay. What are you going to do? When you leave here, I mean. Do you have plans?" Tasha laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Not really. I need to find a job first. My old position at the gallery is filled, but maybe I can find something similar. I'm staying with Jennifer temporarily, sleeping on her couch until I can afford my own place. I'll figure it out eventually." "What if you didn't have to leave?" Nathan asked. Tasha blinked. "What?" "Hear me out," Nathan said, leaning forward. "Ruby has tutors who come in for various subjects. Art, music, beginning languages. But she could use someone here full-time, helping coordinate her education and activities. Someone who could also be a companion for her. The tutors are great, but they're on schedules. Ruby needs someone consistent." "You're offering me a job?" Tasha asked, surprised. "I'm offering you an opportunity," Nathan corrected. "You studied art history. You're patient with Ruby and she already adores you. You need stability and time to figure out your next steps. This would give you both." "Nathan, I can't accept charity." "It's not charity. It's employment. You'd be working, earning a salary, living in the guest house on the property. Completely separate from the main house. You'd have your own space and privacy." Tasha's mind raced. "I don't have any formal teaching experience." "You don't need formal experience. You need to be kind, engaged, and willing to learn. Everything else we can figure out together. And honestly, having another adult around that Ruby trusts would be good for both of us." "Why would you do this for me?" Tasha asked. "You barely know me." "I know enough," Nathan said simply. "I know you're kind. I know you're resilient. I know you make my daughter smile. That's more than enough for me to take a chance. The question is, are you willing to take a chance on us?" Tasha stared at him. "A real job. A place to live. Time to heal and plan her future without the pressure of immediate survival." It seemed too good to be true. "What if it doesn't work out?" she asked. "What if I'm terrible at it or Ruby gets tired of me or—" "Then we adjust," Nathan said calmly. "Nothing is permanent. But I have a feeling this could be good for all of us. At least think about it." Before Tasha could respond, the front door burst open and Ruby's voice rang through the house. "Daddy?" "Tasha. We're home." Footsteps thundered down the hall, and Ruby appeared in the library doorway, snow still clinging to her red coat. "Guess what? Mrs. Patterson said I could bring my friend Sophia over next week, and we're going to make cookies, and can Tasha help us? Please?" "We'll see," Nathan said, but his eyes were on Tasha, waiting. Ruby noticed the serious atmosphere. "What's wrong? Why do you both look funny?" "Nothing's wrong," Tasha said, making a decision. She looked at Nathan. "Yes." "Yes to what?" Ruby asked, confused. "Yes to helping you with cookies," Tasha said. "And yes to staying here a while longer. Your dad just offered me a job helping with your tutoring and activities." Ruby's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? You're staying? For real?" "For real," Tasha confirmed. Ruby threw herself at Tasha, hugging her tight. "This is the best day ever. Wait until I tell Sophia. She's going to be so jealous that I have a friend who lives at my house." Nathan smiled, and Tasha felt something warm unfold in her chest. This was right. She didn't know why or how, but accepting this offer felt like the first truly correct decision she'd made in months. Over dinner that night they discussed logistics. Tasha would meet with Ruby's tutors to understand their curriculum. She'd coordinate schedules, help with homework, and plan educational activities. In return, she'd receive a generous salary and free housing in the guest house, a small but charming building at the edge of the estate's main gardens. "We'll need to set up the guest house," Mrs. Chin said practically. "It's been closed for winter. I'll get Thomas to turn on the heat tomorrow and make sure everything works." "I can help," Tasha offered. "You'll do no such thing," Mrs. Chin said firmly. "Your hands are still healing. Let us take care of it." Jennifer arrived the next morning with 3 suitcases of Tasha's belongings. She pulled up in her small car, and before she'd even fully parked, she was out and hugging Tasha tight. "I've been so worried," Jennifer said. "When I got Brad's text, I didn't believe it at first, but then you didn't answer your phone and I thought." "I'm okay," Tasha assured her. "Really? I'm more than okay." Jennifer studied the estate with wide eyes. "You weren't kidding about this place. It's massive." "Come meet everyone," Tasha said. She introduced Jennifer to Nathan and Ruby, who were outside building a snowman. Jennifer shook Nathan's hand with obvious curiosity, her eyes flicking between him and Tasha with questions she was clearly saving for later. "Thank you for helping her," Jennifer said to Nathan. "When she told me what Brad did, I wanted to call the police." "So did I," Nathan admitted. "But Tasha wants to move forward and I respect that." They helped bring Tasha's things to the guest house, which was now warm and welcoming. Thomas had indeed gotten the heat working, and Mrs. Chen had stocked the small kitchen with basics. It had a bedroom, a bathroom, a living area with a fireplace, and even a tiny office nook. "This is bigger than my entire apartment," Jennifer said, looking around. "And you're getting paid to live here?" "I'm getting paid to work with Ruby," Tasha corrected. "The housing is just part of the arrangement." "Right?" Jennifer said, her tone skeptical. "And he's not even a little bit attractive?" "Jennifer," Tasha hissed, glancing toward the door where Nathan and Ruby were bringing in the last suitcase. "I'm just saying, girl, you landed on your feet. Literally fell out of a car and landed in a Christmas fairy tale." "It's not like that." "Maybe not yet," Jennifer said meaningfully. After Jennifer left, Tasha spent the afternoon unpacking. She hung her clothes in the closet, arranged her books on the shelves, and set up her laptop on the small desk. Through the window, she could see the main house and the snow-covered gardens. A knock on the door interrupted her organizing. Ruby stood outside, holding something wrapped in paper. "I made you a present," Ruby announced, pushing past Tasha into the living room. "For your new house." She handed Tasha the package. Inside was a drawing, carefully colored, showing 3 stick figures labeled Daddy, Ruby, and Tasha, standing in front of a house. The sun was bright yellow, and there were flowers everywhere despite it being winter in the actual drawing. "This is beautiful," Tasha said, her throat tight. "That's you and that's us and we're all together," Ruby explained, pointing at each figure. "Because you're part of our family now." "Ruby," Nathan's voice came from the doorway. "I told you not to bother Tasha while she's settling in." "She's not bothering me," Tasha said quickly. "And thank you, Ruby. I love it. I'm going to hang it right here where I can see it every day." She placed the drawing on the mantel above the fireplace. Ruby beamed with satisfaction. That night, Tasha sat by her own fireplace in her new home, watching the flames dance. She thought about Brad and his mother, about the humiliation and pain of being thrown away. But somehow, sitting here in warmth and safety, with a job and a purpose and people who genuinely cared about her well-being, that pain felt distant. Maybe Jennifer was right. Maybe she had fallen into a fairy tale. But unlike fairy tales, this felt real. The kindness was real. The opportunity was real. The chance to rebuild her life was real. Tasha touched the drawing on the mantel, tracing the stick figure that was supposed to be her. Part of a family. Maybe not in the traditional sense, but family nonetheless. She could work with that. She could build something here, something good and lasting. All she had to do was accept it, accept the help and the hope and the possibility of something better. For the first time since her parents died, Tasha felt like she had a home. January arrived cold and bright. Tasha woke in her guest house to sunlight streaming through windows, frost patterns decorating the glass like natural art. She'd been with the Castellanos for 2 weeks now, and a routine had settled into place. Mornings began with breakfast in the main house. Mrs. Chin always had coffee ready and something warm to eat. Nathan would appear from his office, often with bedhead and reading glasses, looking younger and less polished than his usual careful presentation. Ruby would bounce in wearing whatever outfit she'd picked herself, usually some combination of colors that shouldn't work but somehow did on a 5-year-old. After breakfast, Tasha would help Ruby with her morning activities. On Mondays and Wednesdays, a music tutor named Claire Hoffman came for piano lessons. Tuesdays and Thursdays brought language instruction with Mr. Park, who was teaching Ruby basic Spanish and Korean. Fridays were for art with an instructor named Devin Wright, though Tasha had started taking over more of those sessions herself. The afternoons varied. Sometimes they'd do science experiments in the kitchen, with Mrs. Chen supervising to make sure nothing exploded. Sometimes they'd read stories in the library. Sometimes they'd bundle up and explore the estate grounds with Thomas pointing out animal tracks and explaining how plants survived winter. Today was a Monday, which meant Claire would arrive at 10. Tasha dressed in the blue sweater Nathan's sister had lent her and jeans, then walked through the cold morning air to the main house. Ruby was already at the kitchen table eating pancakes shaped like stars. Tasha, look what Mrs. Chen made. They're magic pancakes. All pancakes are magic, Mrs. Chen said dryly, but her eyes crinkled with affection. Morning, Nathan said looking up from his tablet. Sleep well. Better than I have in months, Tasha admitted. It was true. The guest house was peaceful, and for the first time in forever, she wasn't worried about immediate survival. Good, Nathan said. He hesitated, then added, I have a business meeting in the city on Wednesday. I'll probably be gone most of the day. Are you comfortable handling Ruby's schedule alone? Of course, Tasha said, surprised he'd ask. We'll be fine. Dad's nervous, Ruby announced. He thinks I'll run away or burn down the house without him. I do not, Nathan protested, but he smiled. I just want to make sure everyone's comfortable. We're good, Tasha assured him. Ruby and I will keep each other out of trouble. Claire arrived promptly at 10, bringing sheet music and enthusiasm. Tasha sat in the music room while Ruby practiced scales, offering encouragement when the little girl got frustrated. Claire was patient and skilled, but Ruby's attention span required creative management. How about we play the scale game? Tasha suggested when Ruby started fidgeting. Every time you get through a scale perfectly, you earn a point. 5 points means you get to pick the next song you learn. Ruby brightened immediately. Really? Really, Claire confirmed, catching on. But they have to be perfect scales. No mistakes. Competition and reward proved exactly the motivation Ruby needed. By the end of the lesson, she'd earned her 5 points and picked an upbeat song from a movie soundtrack as her next piece to learn. You're good with her, Claire said as she packed up her music. Ruby can be challenging when she's not engaged. She just needs to understand why she's doing something, Tasha said. Once she has a reason, she's completely focused. After Claire left, Tasha and Ruby worked on a puzzle in the library. These quiet moments had become Tasha's favorite part of the day. Ruby would chatter about anything and everything, her mind jumping from topic to topic with 5-year-old logic. Do you miss your old house? Ruby asked suddenly, fitting a puzzle piece into place. Sometimes, Tasha admitted. But that house is gone now. It had to be sold. Because of money? Because of money, Tasha confirmed. Ruby considered this seriously. Daddy says money is important but not the most important thing. He says people and love matter more. Your daddy's right. Is that why the mean man left you? Because he cared about money more than people? Tasha paused, choosing her words carefully. I think he didn't understand what really matters. But that's okay. I'm better off without him. Way better, Ruby said firmly. You're here with us now and we're much nicer. You definitely are, Tasha agreed and meant it. That afternoon, while Ruby napped, Tasha ventured into the estate library's art history section. Nathan had said she could use any of the books and the collection was impressive. She pulled down a volume on Renaissance painting and settled into a comfortable chair. She'd barely started reading when Nathan appeared in the doorway. Sorry, he said. I'm not interrupting, am I? I can come back. No, it's fine, Tasha said. Ruby's sleeping. Nathan sat down across from her. He'd changed from his morning casual into proper work clothes, though he'd loosened his tie. How did the morning go? Really well. Ruby earned her reward points and picked her next piano song. We worked on a puzzle after. She asked about my old house. Did she? Nathan looked concerned. I hope that wasn't uncomfortable. Not at all. She's curious and thoughtful. She has good instincts about people. She does, Nathan agreed. Sometimes too good. She sees things adults miss. Like what? Nathan hesitated. She asked me yesterday if you were sad. I said you were healing and she said no, she meant right now. Was I making you sad by working too much and leaving you alone with her? Tasha blinked. She said that. 5 going on 30, Nathan said with a wry smile. I told her you were doing a job you'd agreed to, and that seemed to satisfy her. But it made me think. Are we overwhelming you? You've been here constantly and you just went through something traumatic. If you need breaks, time to yourself, please take it. I'm fine, Tasha said. Honestly, the structure helps. Having responsibilities and routines, it keeps me from dwelling on everything that happened. Still, Nathan said, you should have downtime. Take Sundays completely off. Sleep in, go into the city if you want, whatever you need. Mrs. Chin and I can handle Ruby 1 day a week. That's generous, but... No arguments, Nathan said, though his tone was kind. It's part of the job. Everyone needs rest. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Nathan spoke again, more hesitantly. Can I ask why you haven't pressed charges? Against your ex and his mother? What they did was serious. Tasha closed her book, choosing her words carefully. Because I want to move forward, not backward. Getting police involved means reports and statements and probably lawyers. It means dragging everything out, keeping it alive. I just want it to be over. I understand that, Nathan said. But they shouldn't face no consequences. Maybe they won't, Tasha said. Jennifer said people at the church are asking questions. Brad told everyone I ran away, but Jennifer's been talking to mutual friends. People are starting to doubt his story. Sometimes social consequences are worse than legal ones. Nathan nodded slowly. Fair enough. As long as you're choosing what you want, not just what's easiest. I am, Tasha assured him. For the first time in months, I'm making choices that are actually mine. Wednesday arrived and Nathan left early for his city meeting. He'd laid out instructions that weren't really necessary, and Ruby had rolled her eyes when he'd called at 9 to check in. We're fine, Dad, Ruby had said into the phone. We're making volcanoes with Mr. Park. Indeed, the kitchen table was covered in baking soda, vinegar, and food coloring. Mr. Park supervised good-naturedly while Ruby and Tasha experimented with different combinations. In Spanish, we call this an experiment, Mr. Park said. Experimento. Can you say it? Experimento, Ruby repeated, watching her volcano fizz with delight. This is the best experimento ever. After lunch they moved to art. Tasha had planned a lesson on primary colors and mixing, and Ruby dove in enthusiastically. By the end, they both had paint on their clothes and hands, and Ruby's paper was a cheerful mess of blended colors. You're good at this, Ruby said, studying Tasha's more controlled painting. Were you an artist? I studied art history, Tasha explained. I learned about art and artists, not how to make it myself. But I picked up some basics along the way. Will you teach me more? Not just what the tutors teach, but the stuff you know. If you want, Tasha said, touched. I'd like that. That evening, after Ruby was in bed, Nathan returned. He looked tired but satisfied. Tasha was in the main house kitchen making tea. How did it go? She asked. Productive, Nathan said, loosening his tie. We're backing a promising startup in renewable energy. Could be good. That's great. How was your day? Any disasters? No disasters. One successful volcano, several excellent paintings, and Ruby asked me to teach her more about art. Nathan smiled. She's gotten attached to you. The feeling's mutual, Tasha admitted. She's a special kid. She is, Nathan agreed. He poured himself water and leaned against the counter. Thank you, by the way. For what? For being exactly what we needed. You've brought something back to this house that's been missing. Joy, I think. Lightness. Ruby hasn't been this happy since before Elizabeth died. Tasha felt warmth spread through her chest. I'm glad. She deserves to be happy. So do you, Nathan said quietly. I hope you're finding some happiness here too. I am, Tasha said honestly. More than I expected. Their eyes met and held for a moment. Something passed between them, undefined but significant. Then Nathan looked away, clearing his throat. Well, I should probably review some documents before bed. Good night, Tasha. Good night. Tasha walked back to the guest house through the cold night, her mind turning over the conversation. There'd been something in Nathan's eyes, something warm and complicated. But she was probably reading too much into it. He was her employer, nothing more. Still, as she got ready for bed, she found herself thinking about his smile, the way he listened when she talked, the gentleness in how he treated both his daughter and his staff. He was kind in a world that had shown her considerable cruelty. She fell asleep thinking about primary colors and piano lessons and the way Ruby had hugged her goodnight. This life she was building, small and simple as it was, felt real and good. Whatever happened next, she was grateful for this moment of peace. February brought Valentine's Day decorations courtesy of Ruby, who insisted on covering both houses with paper hearts. Tasha helped her cut shapes from red and pink construction paper, and they hung them everywhere. The estate looked like a greeting card, cheerful and bright. Tasha had settled fully into her role now. She knew Ruby's routines, her preferences, the specific tone of voice that meant she was about to test boundaries. She'd learned that Nathan took his coffee black, that Mrs. Chin hummed while cooking, that Thomas loved discussing bird migration patterns. It felt like family, even though Tasha was careful not to presume too much. This was a job, a fortunate situation, not something permanent. She needed to remember that. On a Tuesday afternoon, while Ruby was at her weekly playdate with Sophia, Tasha worked in the library cataloging books Nathan wanted inventoried. He'd mentioned possibly donating some to the local school, and she'd volunteered to assess the collection. She was deep in the historical fiction section when Mrs. Chin appeared in the doorway, her expression troubled. "There's someone at the gate asking for you," Mrs. Chin said. "A man. He says his name is Brad Coleman." Tasha froze, a book half pulled from the shelf. "What?" "He's at the main gate." Thomas called from the security station. "Should I tell him you're not available?" Tasha's heart raced. "Brad. Here." How had he found her? Jennifer wouldn't have told him. Who else even knew where she was? "Miss Tasha?" Mrs. Chin prompted gently. "What do you want me to tell Thomas?" "I'll talk to him," Tasha heard herself say. "Can you let me use the security phone?" Mrs. Chin led her to Nathan's office, where a monitor showed the gate's camera feed. There, standing beside a sleek car, was Brad. He wore a heavy coat and looked cold, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Tasha picked up the phone connected to the gate's intercom. "What do you want, Brad?" His head snapped up, looking for the camera. "Tasha. Thank God. I need to talk to you. We have nothing to discuss." "Please," Brad said, and he actually sounded sincere. "I made a terrible mistake. The worst mistake of my life. Just give me 5 minutes." "You left me on the side of the road to freeze," Tasha said, her voice hard. "You don't get 5 minutes." I know I did something unforgivable. But I'm trying to make it right. My mother was wrong and I was wrong to listen to her. Please, Tasha. Just hear me out." Tasha's hands trembled. Part of her wanted to simply hang up, to never think about Brad again. But another part needed to know what he possibly thought he could say to justify what he'd done. "How did you find me?" she asked. "Jennifer mentioned you were staying with the Castellanos. I looked up the address." "Tasha, please. I've been calling your phone for weeks. You blocked me, I get that. But don't I deserve a chance to apologize?" "You deserve nothing," Tasha said flatly. But she sighed. "Fine. 5 minutes. Stay at the gate. I'll come to you." She hung up before he could respond. Mrs. Chin looked at her with concern. "Are you sure about this?" "No," Tasha admitted. "But I need to do it anyway. For closure, maybe." "I'll tell Thomas to stay close," Mrs. Chin said firmly. "And I'm calling Mr. Nathan. He's working. He'll want to know." Tasha didn't argue. She grabbed her coat and walked down the long driveway to the gate. Brad stood on the other side of the iron bars, looking uncomfortable. When he saw her approaching, his face brightened. "Tasha, you look good. Healthy. What do you want, Brad?" "I want to apologize. I want to explain. My mother, she convinced me that you'd been lying all along, that you'd manipulated me. But I've had time to think and I know that's not true. You were always honest with me. I should have trusted you." "You should have," Tasha agreed coldly. "But you didn't. You chose to believe the worst and left me to die in the snow. I wasn't thinking clearly. My mother was in my ear telling me I was being used and I panicked. But I've realized something." Brad stepped closer to the gate. "It doesn't matter about the money. I love you, Tasha. That's what's important." "Love?" Tasha repeated. "You think this is about love? Isn't it? We were good together. We can be good together again. Brad, you abandoned me. You didn't even look back. I know. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. But people make mistakes. Don't I deserve forgiveness?" Tasha stared at him. A month ago she might have wavered. Might have considered whether she was being too harsh, whether everyone deserved second chances. But standing here now, warm and safe and valued, she saw Brad clearly for the first time. He wasn't sorry for hurting her. He was sorry she'd found somewhere better. Jennifer must have mentioned Nathan's wealth and Brad had done the math. "You don't want me back," Tasha said quietly. "You want what you think I have access to now. You heard I'm working for a billionaire and you figured you'd try again." "That's not true," Brad protested, but his eyes shifted. I mean, yes, I know you're staying here, but that's not why I came. I came because I miss you. You miss the idea of what I could give you, Tasha corrected. Money or connections or whatever else you think you can get. But that's not me, Brad. That was never me. Tasha, please. No, Tasha said firmly. You had your chance and you threw it away. Actually, you threw me away. I'm not giving you another opportunity to do it again. You're making a mistake, Brad said, his expression hardening. You think this situation is permanent? You're the help, Tasha. A glorified babysitter. Eventually they'll get tired of you and you'll have nothing. Maybe, Tasha said. But that's my choice to make, not yours. I could give you stability, a real future. I'm willing to overlook everything that happened to start fresh. How generous, Tasha said dryly. But I'll pass. I've learned what I'm worth, Brad, and it's more than you were ever willing to give. She turned to walk away, but Brad called after her. You'll regret this. When you're alone again with no money and no prospects, you'll remember I offered you a second chance. Tasha didn't look back. She walked up the driveway with her head high, her heart pounding but her resolve solid. Behind her, she heard Brad's car start and drive away. Thomas stood near the gatehouse, having clearly heard everything. He nodded approvingly as she passed. Good for you, Miss Tasha. That man's no good. Thanks, Thomas. Back at the main house, Tasha found Nathan in his office. He stood when she entered, his expression concerned. Mrs. Chin told me. Are you okay? I'm fine, Tasha said and meant it. He wanted to apologize to get back together. I said no. Good, Nathan said firmly. That took courage. It felt necessary, Tasha said. He tried to make me doubt myself, tried to suggest I was being foolish for staying here. But I'm not. Am I? Not even a little, Nathan assured her. You're exactly where you should be. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then Nathan smiled slightly. Ruby will be home soon. She's going to want to show you the Valentine she made for you at Sophia's house. Fair warning, it involves a lot of glitter. Tasha laughed, the tension breaking. I'll brace myself. That evening Ruby did indeed present her Valentine. A large heart covered in glitter with to Tasha from Ruby written in careful letters. Tasha hung it in the guest house's kitchen, where it caught the light and sparkled. She made herself tea and sat by the fireplace thinking about Brad's visit. A month ago, seeing him might have destabilized her. Might have made her question everything. Now she just felt relieved. Relieved to have clarity, to know absolutely that leaving him behind was the right choice. He'd shown his true nature, and she was grateful to see it before committing her life to him. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Brad called me asking for your address. I told him to jump off a bridge. Did he show up? Tasha typed back, he did. I turned him away. I'm good. That's my girl. You deserve so much better. I'm starting to believe that. Tasha set her phone down and pulled Ruby's Valentine closer, admiring the imperfect but heartfelt creation. This was what mattered. Not grand gestures or empty apologies, but genuine affection from people who actually cared. She was building something here. Slowly, carefully, but really building. A life that was hers, shaped by her choices and her values. Brad had been right about one thing. Eventually this situation might end. Nathan might decide he didn't need her help anymore, or Ruby might outgrow her need for a companion. But even if that happened, Tasha would be okay. Because she'd learned something essential in these past months. She was stronger than she'd known. More resilient, more capable, more deserving of good things. Whatever came next, she'd handle it. But for now, she was exactly where she wanted to be. Spring arrived gradually, melting snow giving way to mud and then finally to green grass and early flowers. Ruby turned 6 in March and the celebration was small but joyful. A few friends from school, cake, presents, and Ruby's declared wish that Tasha would stay forever. Tasha had hugged her and said she'd stay as long as Ruby wanted her, which seemed to satisfy the little girl. But later, helping clean up while Nathan supervised the last children being picked up, Tasha found herself thinking about Ruby's words. Forever. It was such a big concept for a child to grasp, and yet Ruby had said it with complete certainty. As if Tasha's permanent presence was both desired and possible. The truth was more complicated. Tasha had been with the Castellanos for 3 months now. 3 months of routine and stability, of feeling valued and needed. But she couldn't shake the knowledge that this was temporary. A job, not a life. She'd started saving most of her salary, planning for an eventual return to independence. Nathan paid her generously, more than the position likely warranted, and with no rent or food costs, her expenses were minimal. In another few months, she'd have enough for a security deposit on an apartment, a cushion while she looked for permanent work. But the thought of leaving made her chest tight. She'd grown attached to Ruby, to the routines, to the whole household. Even to Nathan, though she tried not to think too hard about what that attachment meant. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Nathan asked, startling her from her reverie. The last guest had left, and Ruby was upstairs changing out of her party dress. "Just thinking about how fast time goes," Tasha said. 3 months since Christmas Eve. It feels like longer and shorter simultaneously. "I know what you mean," Nathan said. He sat at the kitchen table looking tired but content. "Ruby's growing so fast. Sometimes I look at her and can't believe she's already 6. "She's amazing," Tasha said sincerely. "You've done an incredible job with her." "We've done an incredible job," Nathan corrected gently. "You've been such a positive influence. She's more confident, more engaged. You've given her something I couldn't." "What's that?" "A female role model who's present and consistent. Mrs. Chin is wonderful, but she's staff, not family. Ruby needed someone who could be both teacher and friend. You've become that for her." Tasha felt warmth spread through her chest. "She's made it easy. She's such a loving kid." Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. "She asked me yesterday why you can't be her new mother." Tasha's breath caught. "She what?" "It's not the first time she's brought it up," Nathan admitted. "She's been hinting for weeks. Yesterday she finally asked directly. Why can't Tasha be my mom?" "What did you tell her?" "That families are complicated. That you're our friend and work with us, but that doesn't make you her mother." She seemed to accept that, but then she asked if maybe someday you could be. Tasha didn't know what to say. The conversation felt weighted with implications she wasn't ready to examine. "I'm sorry if she made you uncomfortable," Nathan continued. "She's 6 and doesn't understand adult boundaries. I've explained that you have your own life and future plans, and that living here is your job, not forever." "It's okay," Tasha managed. "Kids have big imaginations." "It's not just imagination though," Nathan said quietly. "She genuinely cares about you. And honestly, so do I." Their eyes met. Tasha's heart hammered. "As her employer," Nathan added quickly. "As someone who's grateful for what you've done for my daughter." "I hope that's not inappropriate to say." "It's not," Tasha said, though her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Ruby's footsteps thundered down the stairs, breaking the moment. She appeared in the kitchen doorway wearing pajamas, even though it was only 7 in the evening. "Can we watch a movie?" she asked. "A birthday movie?" "Sure," Nathan said, standing. "Go pick something out. We'll be right there." Ruby ran off. Nathan and Tasha stood in the kitchen, the air between them still charged with whatever had passed unspoken. "I should probably go," Tasha said. "Give you two some family time." "Stay," Nathan said. "If you want. You're part of the evening already." Tasha hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. For a bit." They watched Ruby's chosen movie, an animated film about friendship and adventure. Ruby sat between them on the couch, her head eventually drooping onto Tasha's shoulder as she fought sleep. When the movie ended, Nathan carried his daughter upstairs. Tasha waited in the living room, uncertain whether to leave or stay. Nathan returned a few minutes later. "She was asleep before her head hit the pillow," he said with a smile. Excitement wore her out. "It was a good party," Tasha said. "Thanks to you. You did most of the planning and execution." "It's my job." "Is that all it is?" Nathan asked quietly. "Just a job?" Tasha met his eyes. "I don't know. What else could it be?" Nathan stepped closer. "I think you know. I think we both know, but we're dancing around it because it's complicated and potentially messy." "Nathan." "I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I'm just acknowledging what's happening. I care about you, Tasha. More than as Ruby's companion or an employee. You've brought light back into this house, into my life. And I think you feel something too. Am I wrong?" Tasha's throat felt tight. "You're not wrong. But this is complicated. You're right about that. I work for you. There's a power imbalance. And what about Ruby? If something happens between us and it doesn't work out, she's the one who gets hurt." "All valid concerns," Nathan agreed. "Which is why I'm not pushing for anything. But I also don't want to pretend there's nothing here. I've spent 2 years not feeling much of anything. Elizabeth's death hollowed me out. Ruby kept me going, but I was just going through motions. You changed that. I don't want to be a replacement for your wife," Tasha said carefully. "You're not," Nathan said firmly. "You're completely your own person. I'm not looking for Elizabeth 2.0. I'm just saying that you've made me feel alive again, and I'm grateful for that. They stood close but not touching, the space between them electric with possibility. So what do we do? Tasha asked. We take it slow, Nathan said. We're honest with each other. We prioritize Ruby's well-being above everything else. And we see what happens naturally without forcing anything. That sounds reasonable. Does it also sound like something you want? Nathan asked. Tasha took a breath. Yes. It scares me, but yes. Nathan's smile was warm and genuine. Good. Because Ruby's not the only one who wants you to stay forever. Though maybe we could aim for a long time first and see how that goes. Tasha laughed, some of the tension breaking. I can work with a long time. They stood there smiling at each other like teenagers until Tasha finally said she should head back to the guest house. Nathan walked her to the door. Good night, Tasha. Good night. She walked through the cool spring evening, her mind spinning. What had just happened? Had they just agreed to, what? Date? Become something more than employer and employee? It felt surreal and terrifying and exciting all at once. Back in the guest house, Tasha looked at Ruby's glitter valentine still hanging in her kitchen. The little girl wanted a mother, and Nathan had admitted he wanted more than a professional relationship. Was this really happening? Could she actually build a real life here, not just a temporary safe harbor? The fear was still there, the voice that said she'd be foolish to trust this, to believe in happiness after everything that had happened. But there was another voice too, quieter but growing stronger. The voice that said maybe she deserved this. Maybe she'd earned it through survival and resilience and choosing to stay open to possibility. Tasha got ready for bed, her thoughts full of Nathan's smile and Ruby's wish and the feeling of being wanted, truly wanted, not for what she could provide but for who she was. She fell asleep with a smile on her face, and her dreams were full of springtime and laughter and small hands reaching for hers. April brought rain and flowers and a tentative shift in the household dynamic. Nathan and Tasha hadn't discussed the conversation from Ruby's birthday again, but something had changed. Small touches as they passed in hallways. Longer conversations over coffee after Ruby went to bed. Looks that lasted a beat too long. Ruby, perceptive as ever, noticed but said nothing. She simply smiled more, hummed while doing her schoolwork, and began all her drawings with 3 figures labeled, My Family. One Saturday afternoon, Nathan suggested a picnic. The weather had finally cleared after days of spring storms, and the estate's gardens were in full bloom. Ruby packed a basket with Mrs. Chen's help while Tasha gathered blankets. They found a spot near the estate's small pond, spreading blankets under a willow tree. Ruby immediately ran to watch the ducks, her attention consumed by the waterfowl's antics. She'll be occupied for at least 20 minutes, Nathan said, settling onto the blanket beside Tasha. I've learned to recognize her duck-watching focus. It's nice to see her so carefree, Tasha said. She's such a serious kid sometimes. She gets that from me, Nathan admitted. Though you've helped her loosen up. She laughs more now. They ate sandwiches and fruit, watching Ruby toss breadcrumbs to the ducks. The afternoon was warm, the first real warmth after the long winter. Tasha felt herself relaxing, tension she hadn't realized she was carrying seeping away. Can I ask you something? Nathan said eventually. Of course. What do you want? Long term, I mean. You've been here 4 months and you've never really talked about your plans for the future. Tasha considered the question. Honestly? I don't know. Before everything fell apart, I thought I knew exactly what I wanted. Marriage, stability, maybe eventually kids. But that was all based on a relationship that turned out to be fake. Now I'm not sure. What about your career? You studied art history. Do you still want to work in that field? Maybe, Tasha said slowly. I loved my gallery job, but I also love working with Ruby. Maybe education is where I should be focusing. Teaching kids about art and creativity and self-expression. You're good at it, Nathan said. Ruby's art has improved dramatically since you started working with her. Not just technically but in how she thinks about creating. She's more confident in expressing her ideas. Thank you, Tasha said, pleased. That means a lot. Tasha, Nathan said, his voice growing serious. I need to say something. I've been thinking about this for weeks and I can't keep dancing around it anymore. Tasha's heart raced. Okay. You've become essential to our lives. To Ruby's education and happiness, yes, but also to the whole atmosphere of this house. You've brought joy and warmth and a sense of rightness that's been missing since Elizabeth died. And for me personally, you've done something I didn't think was possible anymore. What's that? You've made me want a future again. Not just existing day to day for Ruby's sake, but actually looking forward to what's coming next. Looking forward to conversations with you, to seeing your smile, to watching how you interact with my daughter. Tasha's throat felt tight. Nathan. Let me finish, he said gently. I know this is complicated. I know there are valid concerns about power dynamics and what it means for Ruby if things don't work out. But I also know that I care about you deeply and I think you care about me too. I do, Tasha admitted quietly. So here's what I'm asking, Nathan said. Would you consider making this permanent? Not just as Ruby's companion and teacher, but as part of our family in a real, official way. Tasha stared at him. Are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking if you'd be open to building a future with us. Taking our time, doing this right, but with the intention of it being permanent. I'm asking if you can see yourself staying not because you work here, but because you want to be here. With me. With Ruby. With us. Tears pricked Tasha's eyes. You don't have to do this out of some sense of obligation or gratitude. I'm not, Nathan said firmly. I'm doing this because when I think about the future now, I see you in it. When Ruby talks about her dreams and plans, you're always there. When I imagine this house 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're part of the picture. What if I mess it up? Tasha asked, her voice breaking. What if I'm not good enough or I make mistakes or... Then we figure it out together, Nathan interrupted. That's what families do. They make mistakes and forgive each other and keep moving forward. I'm not asking you to be perfect, Tasha. I'm just asking you to be willing to try. Tasha looked across the lawn at Ruby, who was now lying on her stomach watching the ducks at eye level. The little girl was completely absorbed, and the sight filled Tasha with overwhelming affection. I love her, Tasha said quietly. I didn't expect to, but I do. She's become such an important part of my life. She loves you too, Nathan said. She told me last week that you make her feel safe and happy, and that's all I ever wanted for her. What about you? Tasha asked, meeting his eyes. How do I make you feel? Nathan smiled. Hopeful. Alive. Like maybe there's room in my life for something more than just work and parenting. Like maybe I can be a whole person again. That's how you make me feel too, Tasha admitted. After Brad, after everything, I thought I was broken. That I'd never trust anyone again or believe in good things. But you've shown me that kindness exists. That people can be genuinely good without ulterior motives. So is that a yes? Nathan asked, his voice gentle but hopeful. You'll stay? Not just for a job, but for us. Tasha felt tears slip down her cheeks, but she was smiling. Yes, I'll stay. I want to build something real with you and Ruby. I want to be part of this family. Nathan reached out and took her hand, his touch warm and steady. Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me. Daddy? Tasha. Ruby's voice rang across the lawn. Come look. The baby ducks are learning to swim. They stood, hands still linked, and walked toward Ruby together. The little girl looked up at them, and her eyes widened when she saw their joined hands. Are you holding hands? She asked, her voice rising with excitement. We are, Nathan confirmed. Does that mean you're going to be together? Like together? If that's okay with you, Tasha said. Your dad and I have feelings for each other and we want to see where they go. But only if you're comfortable with it. Ruby launched herself at Tasha, hugging her tight. I've been wishing for this forever. You're going to stay, right? You're not going to leave. I'm staying, Tasha promised, hugging her back. For as long as you'll have me. Forever then, Ruby declared. Because I'm never going to not want you here. They spent the rest of the afternoon at the pond, Ruby chattering excitedly about all the things they could do now as a real family. By the time they packed up to head back, the sun was low and golden, casting long shadows across the grass. That evening, after Ruby was asleep, Nathan and Tasha sat together on the guest house porch. The night was cool but not cold, and stars were beginning to appear overhead. I can't believe this is happening, Tasha said. 6 months ago I was being thrown out of a car. Now I'm here with you planning a future. It doesn't feel real. It's real, Nathan assured her. And it's going to be good. We'll take our time, do everything right. No rushing, no pressure. Just seeing where this goes naturally. I like the sound of that, Tasha said. They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the stars emerge. Tasha felt peace settle over her like a blanket. This was right. Despite all the reasons it shouldn't work, despite the unconventional way they'd come together, this felt absolutely right. What do we do next? She asked eventually. We keep doing what we're doing, Nathan said. Taking care of Ruby, building our relationship, being honest with each other. Eventually, when we're both ready, we'll make it official. But there's no timeline, no pressure. We'll know when the time is right. Okay, Tasha said softly. I trust you. And I trust you, Nathan replied. That's what matters most. Tasha leaned her head on his shoulder, and Nathan wrapped an arm around her. They sat like that until the cold drove them inside, but even then they were reluctant to part. As Tasha got ready for bed, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. She looked different somehow. Lighter. The shadows that had lived in her eyes since her parents' death had faded. She looked happy. She thought about Brad's visit, about his prediction that she'd end up alone and regretful. He couldn't have been more wrong. She'd found something real here, something worth holding on to. Not because of money or status or security, but because of genuine connection and care. She fell asleep that night thinking about Nathan's smile, Ruby's excitement, and the feeling of being exactly where she belonged. The future was uncertain, as all futures are. But for the first time in her life, Tasha wasn't afraid of that uncertainty. Whatever came next, she'd face it with people who truly cared about her by her side. And that made all the difference. Summer arrived in a rush of heat and long light-filled days. Ruby finished kindergarten with glowing reports from her teachers. Nathan's business continued to thrive, though he'd made a point of being home more, of not letting work consume all his time and energy. Tasha and Nathan's relationship developed gradually, exactly as they'd planned. Date nights when Ruby was at sleepovers. Long conversations after the little girl went to bed. Slow, careful building of trust and intimacy. By July, it felt natural when Nathan suggested Tasha move into the main house. The guest house had served its purpose, but the separation felt artificial now. Ruby was overjoyed at the news, immediately planning how to redecorate the room that would become Tasha's. Not my room though, Ruby clarified. Your room. Because you're a grown-up and you need your own space. But it should be near mine so we can talk at night if we want to. They chose a room across the hall from Ruby's, spacious and bright with windows overlooking the gardens. Tasha spent a weekend moving her belongings, feeling both excited and nervous about this next step. It's really happening, Jennifer said, helping carry boxes. She'd become a regular visitor to the estate, charmed by Ruby and guardedly approving of Nathan. You're moving in with a billionaire. This is like a movie. It's not about the money, Tasha protested, but Jennifer waved her off. I know that. I've seen how he looks at you and how you look at him. I'm just saying if this is a movie, it's a good one. The kind with a happy ending. I hope so, Tasha said softly. I know so, Jennifer replied firmly. You deserve this, Tash. After everything you've been through, you deserve happiness. In August, Nathan took Tasha and Ruby on a week-long vacation to the coast. They rented a beach house and spent lazy days swimming, building sandcastles, and eating too much ice cream. Ruby learned to boogie board, and Nathan taught Tasha to sail in a small boat he'd rented. One evening, after Ruby was asleep, they sat on the beach watching the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, the waves gentle and rhythmic. I've been thinking, Nathan said quietly, about the future. About us. Yeah, Tasha prompted. I think I'm ready to make this official. Not just living together but really committed. Married. Tasha's breath caught. They talked about marriage hypothetically as a someday possibility, but this felt more immediate. Is this a proposal? She asked carefully. Not yet, Nathan said with a slight smile. This is a pre-proposal. A conversation to make sure we're on the same page. I don't want to surprise you with something you're not ready for. That's very considerate, Tasha said, her heart racing. And where are you at? What do you want? I want to marry you, Nathan said simply. I want Ruby to have a mother who loves her as much as you do. I want to build a life together officially, legally, in front of everyone we care about. But only if that's what you want too. Tasha looked out at the ocean, gathering her thoughts. 6 months ago, she'd been terrified of commitment after Brad's betrayal. But Nathan wasn't Brad. Nathan had proven himself over and over, in small moments and large ones, to be trustworthy and kind. I want that too, she said finally. I want to marry you. I want to be Ruby's stepmom officially. I want all of it. Nathan turned to her, his eyes bright with emotion. Really? Really? Tasha confirmed. I love you, Nathan. I love the life we're building. I'm ready to make it permanent. I love you too, Nathan said, pulling her close. So much. You've changed everything for us. They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, and Tasha felt a sense of rightness so profound it almost hurt. This was what love was supposed to feel like. Safe and exciting simultaneously. built on trust and respect and genuine affection. Back at the beach house, Ruby was awake when they returned, sitting in the living room with Mrs. Chen, who'd accompanied them on the trip. "I couldn't sleep," Ruby announced. "The ocean is too loud." "Or you're too excited about tomorrow's beach day," Nathan said, sitting beside his daughter. "Maybe that too," Ruby admitted. She looked between Nathan and Tasha. "Why do you both look happy?" "Because we have something to tell you," Tasha said, sitting on Ruby's other side. "How would you feel if your dad and I got married?" Ruby's eyes went wide. "For real? Not just talking about it someday but actually doing it?" "Actually doing it," Nathan confirmed. "If you're okay with that." Ruby threw her arms around Tasha. "I'm more than okay. I've been waiting forever for you to ask. Can I be in the wedding? Can I wear a fancy dress? Can we get a puppy?" "We'll discuss the puppy," Nathan said, laughing. "But yes, you'll definitely be in the wedding. You're the most important person there." "When is it going to happen?" Ruby asked. "We haven't planned that yet," Tasha said. "But probably soon. We don't want a big complicated wedding. Just something simple with the people we care about." "I can help plan," Ruby offered eagerly. "I'm really good at planning. I plan my whole 6th birthday." "With lots of help from Mrs. Chen," Nathan reminded her gently. "But yes, you can help with the wedding." They spent the rest of the evening discussing possibilities. Ruby had elaborate ideas involving horses and fireworks, while Nathan and Tasha gravitated toward something more understated. By the time Ruby finally fell asleep, they'd narrowed it down to a summer wedding in the estate gardens. "Small and intimate," Tasha said. "Just family and close friends. Nothing fancy or stressful." "Sounds perfect," Nathan agreed. The next month flew by in a blur of gentle planning. Jennifer agreed to be Tasha's maid of honor, and Nathan asked his business partner and college friend Robert Singh to be his best man. They kept the guest list small, immediate family and close friends only. Mrs. Chen coordinated the catering, refusing to let anyone hire outside help when she was perfectly capable of preparing a beautiful meal. Thomas oversaw the garden preparations, ensuring the rose bushes were pruned and the lawn perfectly manicured. Even Ruby's tutors got involved, Claire offering to play piano for the ceremony and Mr. Park teaching Ruby a short reading in Spanish to recite. In early September, with the weather perfect and the gardens in full late summer bloom, invitations went out. The wedding was set for the first Saturday in October, exactly a week after Ruby's request for them to get married had first been voiced. Tasha found a dress with Jennifer's help, simple and elegant in ivory rather than stark white. Ruby picked her own outfit, a blue dress with flowers embroidered on the skirt. Nathan would wear a suit but nothing too formal. This was a celebration, not a performance. As the date approached, Tasha found herself surprisingly calm. No anxiety, no second thoughts, just quiet anticipation. This felt right in a way her first wedding attempt never had. "Are you nervous?" Jennifer asked the week before the wedding, as they did a final fitting of Tasha's dress. "No," Tasha said honestly. "Is that weird? Shouldn't I be nervous?" "Not when it's right," Jennifer replied. "When you know you know. And you know." "I do," Tasha agreed. "This is exactly what I want." The night before the wedding, Nathan and Tasha sat in the garden where they'd be married tomorrow. The space was already decorated, white chairs arranged in neat rows, an archway covered in roses marking where they'd stand. "Last chance to run away," Nathan joked. "Not a chance," Tasha said. "I'm exactly where I want to be." "Me too," Nathan said seriously. "Thank you for taking a chance on us. On this whole complicated situation." "Thank you for seeing me when I was at my lowest," Tasha replied. "For offering help without expecting anything in return. For letting me heal here." "You saved us too," Nathan said quietly. "Ruby and me both. We were going through motions before you arrived. Now we're really living." They sat in peaceful silence, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. Tomorrow would bring change and celebration, but tonight was just for them. A moment of quiet before the joy of what came next. "I can't wait to marry you," Tasha said softly. "I can't wait to marry you too," Nathan replied, taking her hand. "Tomorrow you become officially part of this family. Though honestly, you've been family since the moment Ruby found you at the gate." Tasha smiled, thinking about that snowy Christmas Eve that felt like a lifetime ago. She'd been broken and hopeless, certain her life was ending. Instead, she'd found the beginning of something better than she'd ever imagined possible. Tomorrow she'd marry Nathan Castellano. She'd become Ruby's stepmother officially. She'd commit to this life, this family, this future. And she couldn't wait. October arrived with perfect autumn weather. The morning of the wedding dawned cool and clear, the sky a brilliant blue. Tasha woke early in her room, the last morning she'd spend as just Tasha Monroe, before becoming Tasha Castellano. Jennifer appeared at 7 with coffee and pastries, shooing away Tasha's protests. "You need to eat. I'm not letting you faint at your own wedding." "I'm not going to faint," Tasha said, but she accepted the coffee gratefully. "How are you feeling?" "Good. Really good actually." "Excited? No cold feet? No last-minute doubts?" "None," Tasha said firmly. "This is right." "I know it is." Mrs. Chin arrived to help with hair and makeup, bringing Ruby along. The little girl wore a bathrobe over her dress, her hair already styled in careful curls. "You look pretty," Ruby announced, studying Tasha critically. "But you'll look prettier in your dress." "Thanks, I think," Tasha said with a laugh. The morning passed in a pleasant blur. Jennifer kept up a steady stream of chatter, keeping Tasha's nerves at bay. Mrs. Chen worked efficiently, creating a simple updo that complemented Tasha's dress. Ruby provided commentary on everything, her excitement palpable. By 11 Tasha was dressed. The ivory gown fit perfectly, elegant but not fussy. She wore her grandmother's pearl earrings, the same one she'd been wearing the night she arrived at the Castellano gate. Jennifer fastened a simple necklace Nathan had given her as a wedding gift. "You look beautiful," Jennifer said, her eyes misty. "Really beautiful, Tash." "Thank you for being here," Tasha said, hugging her friend carefully. "For everything. You've been my rock through all of this." "That's what best friends do," Jennifer replied. "Now come on, let's get you married." The ceremony was set for noon. Guests began arriving at 11:30, filling the garden chairs. Tasha watched from an upstairs window as Nathan's sister Patricia arrived with her husband. Robert Singh and his wife came next, followed by other friends and business associates Nathan had insisted on including. Tasha's guest list was smaller. Jennifer and her boyfriend, a few former co-workers from the gallery, and some college friends she'd reconnected with. Small but meaningful. At 5 minutes to noon, Jennifer and Ruby lined up. The plan was simple. Ruby would walk first, scattering rose petals. Then Jennifer. Then Tasha. "Ready?" Jennifer asked. "Ready," Tasha confirmed. Ruby gave a little squeal of excitement. "This is the best day ever." Music started, something soft and melodic played by Claire on a portable keyboard set up near the ceremony site. Ruby started her walk, taking her role very seriously. She scattered petals with careful concentration, making sure they were evenly distributed. Jennifer went next, winking at Tasha before heading down the path. Then it was Tasha's turn. She walked alone, which felt right. No one to give her away because she was giving herself, making her own choice. The aisle seemed both impossibly long and far too short. At the end, Nathan waited. He wore a dark suit with a blue tie that matched Ruby's dress. His expression when he saw Tasha made her breath catch. He looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Ruby stood to one side of the archway, practically bouncing with excitement. Jennifer stood on the other, smiling encouragingly. The officiant, a kind woman named Judge Morrison whom Nathan had known for years, smiled warmly as Tasha took her place beside Nathan. "Hi," Nathan whispered. "Hi," Tasha whispered back. "You look incredible." "So do you." Judge Morrison cleared her throat gently, and the ceremony began. "We gather here today in celebration," she said, her voice carrying across the garden. "Not just of a union between two people, but of the creation of a family. Nathan, Tasha, and young Ruby have already been building something together over these past months. Today we simply make it official." She spoke about love and commitment, about choosing each other daily, about building lives together through good times and challenges. Tasha barely heard the words, too focused on Nathan's steady presence beside her and Ruby's barely contained excitement. Then it was time for vows. Nathan went first. "Tasha, 6 months ago you literally showed up at my gate in a torn wedding dress, and I had no idea that you'd become the most important person in my life besides my daughter. You've brought light and laughter back to our home. You've shown Ruby what kindness and strength look like. You've shown me that it's okay to love again, to be vulnerable again, to hope for a future that's about more than just survival." His voice wavered slightly. "I promise to honor you, to support your dreams, to be your partner in everything. I promise to keep showing up, to keep choosing you, to keep building this life we've started. I love you and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life proving it." Tasha's eyes burned with unshed tears. Then it was her turn. "Nathan, when you found me that night, I'd given up. I thought my life was over, that I had nothing left worth living for. You showed me I was wrong. You offered help without asking for anything in return. You gave me space to heal and time to find myself again. You let me fall in love with your daughter, and somewhere along the way I fell in love with you too. She took a breath, steadying herself. I promise to be the partner you deserve, the stepmother Ruby needs, the person who always chooses this family first. I promise to keep being honest, to keep showing up, to keep believing in the goodness that brought us together. I love you both so much, and I'm honored to officially become part of this family. Judge Morrison smiled. Do you, Nathan Castellano, take Tasha Monroe to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do, Nathan said firmly. And do you, Tasha Monroe, take Nathan Castellano to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do, Tasha said, her voice clear and sure. Then by the power vested in me by the state, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Nathan cupped Tasha's face gently and kissed her, and the small gathering burst into applause. Ruby let out a whoop of joy that made everyone laugh. When Nathan and Tasha broke apart, both grinning, Ruby immediately rushed over and hugged them both. You're married. You're really married. We're a real family now. We were always a real family, Nathan said, lifting his daughter into his arms. This just makes it official. The reception flowed seamlessly from the ceremony. Tables had been set up under a large tent, decorated simply with flowers and candles. Mrs. Chin had outdone herself with the food, elegant but approachable dishes that pleased everyone. Tasha found herself pulled from conversation to conversation. Patricia hugged her warmly and whispered that Elizabeth would have approved. Robert made a toast about Nathan finally smiling again. Jennifer gave a speech that made Tasha cry and laugh simultaneously. Ruby appointed herself unofficial photographer, using a child-safe camera Nathan had bought her for the occasion. She took hundreds of photos, most of them blurry or oddly angled, but a few were surprisingly good. As the afternoon wore on, someone suggested dancing. Claire switched from ceremony music to something more upbeat, and soon people were moving to the music on the lawn. Nathan pulled Tasha into his arms for their first dance as husband and wife. How are you feeling? He asked as they swayed together. Like I'm dreaming, Tasha admitted. Like this can't possibly be real. It's real, Nathan assured her. You're stuck with us now. Best decision I ever made, Tasha replied. Ruby cut in after one song, insisting on dancing with both her parents at once. They accommodated her, the three of them moving together in a slightly chaotic but joyful group. When the song ended, Ruby declared herself tired and went to sit with Mrs. Chen. She's exhausted, Nathan observed. All that excitement finally caught up with her. She was perfect today, Tasha said. So serious about her flower girl duties. She's been planning this since you said yes, Nathan reminded her. This is everything she's wanted. As evening approached and guests began to leave, Tasha found a quiet moment to sit in one of the garden chairs. She kicked off her shoes and wiggled her toes, relieved to be off her feet. Jennifer appeared beside her, sitting down with a satisfied sigh. Well, you did it. You got your happily ever after. I did, Tasha agreed. Though it doesn't feel like an ending. More like a beginning. That's because it is, Jennifer said. You've got a whole life ahead of you now. A husband who adores you, a stepdaughter who thinks you hung the moon, and a house that looks like something out of a magazine. You won the lottery, girl. I got lucky, Tasha corrected. But not because of money or houses. Because I found people who genuinely care about me. That's the real prize, Jennifer agreed. She stood and hugged Tasha one more time. I'm so happy for you. You deserve every bit of this joy. After Jennifer left, Nathan came looking for Tasha. He'd removed his jacket and loosened his tie, looking more relaxed than he had all day. There you are. I thought maybe you'd run away. Not a chance, Tasha said, standing and sliding into his arms. Where would I go? Everything I want is right here. Ruby's asleep on a couch inside, Nathan reported. Mrs. Chin is watching her. Everyone else has left. It's just us now. Just us, Tasha repeated. Mr. and Mrs. Castellano. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? They walked through the garden together, hand in hand, admiring the decorations in the fading light. The roses on the archway were already beginning to droop, but they still looked beautiful. Thank you for this, Tasha said. For the wedding, for everything. For seeing me that night at your gate and deciding I was worth helping. Thank you for letting me help, Nathan replied. For trusting us enough to stay. For loving Ruby and accepting this whole complicated situation. It's not complicated anymore, Tasha said. It's just life. Our life. They stood under the archway where they'd been married hours earlier. The sky was turning purple and orange as the sun set, painting everything in warm colors. "I love you," Nathan said simply. "I love you too," Tasha replied. Inside the house, Ruby woke up from her nap demanding to know if the wedding was over. When Nathan confirmed it was, she looked momentarily disappointed, then brightened. "But now Tasha lives with us forever, right? She's my mom now." "I'm your stepmom," Tasha corrected gently, sitting beside Ruby on the couch. "Your mom was Elizabeth and she'll always be your mom. But yes, I'm here forever if you'll have me." "I'll have you," Ruby said firmly. She snuggled against Tasha's side. Today was the best day. Even better than Christmas. "High praise," Nathan said, sitting on Ruby's other side. They stayed like that for a while, the three of them together on the couch as darkness fell outside. Mrs. Chin brought hot chocolate and cookies and they watched a movie that Ruby picked, something animated and sweet. By the time the movie ended, Ruby was asleep again, worn out by excitement and joy. Nathan carried her upstairs while Tasha followed, and together they tucked her into bed. "Sweet dreams, sweetheart," Tasha whispered, kissing Ruby's forehead. "Love you," Ruby mumbled, already mostly asleep. "Love you too," Tasha said. In the hallway, Nathan took Tasha's hand. "So, Mrs. Castellano, what do you want to do with the rest of our wedding night?" "Something quiet," Tasha said. "Maybe sit by the fire and just be together?" "Sounds perfect." They changed into comfortable clothes and settled in the living room, the fire crackling warmly. Tasha leaned against Nathan's shoulder, feeling utterly content. "Can I tell you something?" she asked after a while. "Anything." "When Brad and his mother left me on that road, I thought my story was over. I thought that was how I'd be remembered, as the woman who almost got married but ended up abandoned and alone. I never imagined this." "This?" Nathan prompted. "Happiness. Real, genuine happiness. A family that chose me and keeps choosing me every day. A life that feels meaningful and full. I thought those things were only for other people, not for me." "You deserved them all along," Nathan said firmly. "Brad was just too much of an idiot to see your worth. His loss became my gain, and I'll be grateful for that for the rest of my life. Even though it started with me showing up in a torn wedding dress?" "Especially because of that," Nathan said. "Ruby thought you looked like a princess in a fairy tale, and she wasn't wrong. You were someone who needed rescuing, but you ended up rescuing us too." Tasha smiled. "I like that story better than the one I thought I was living." "It's a good story," Nathan agreed. "And we're only at the beginning. We've got years and years of chapters ahead of us." They talked late into the night, making plans and dreaming about the future. Maybe they'd travel more, show Ruby the world. Maybe they'd expand the educational programs at the estate, help other kids the way they'd helped Ruby. Maybe they'd even grow their family, though that was a conversation for another day. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Not as employer and employee, not even as two separate people who happened to live in the same house. But as partners, as husband and wife, as a family. When they finally went to bed, Tasha paused in the doorway of what was now their shared room. 6 months ago, she'd slept in a guest room, uncertain of her place. Before that, she'd been freezing in the snow, certain she was going to die. Now she was home. Really truly home. Nathan wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" "How far I've come," Tasha said softly. "How different everything is from what I expected." "Better or worse?" "So much better," Tasha said, turning to face him. "Better than I ever imagined possible." "Good," Nathan said, kissing her forehead. "Because this is just the beginning. We've got a whole lifetime ahead of us." "I can't wait," Tasha said, and she meant it. They climbed into bed together, and Tasha fell asleep with Nathan's arm around her and a smile on her face. Outside, snow began to fall, early and unexpected, covering the garden in white. But inside the Castellano house, everything was warm and bright and full of love. Tasha had been rejected, abandoned, left to freeze on Christmas Eve. But she'd survived. More than that, she'd found her way to exactly where she belonged. With a man who saw her worth, a child who loved her unconditionally, and a future that stretched out bright and promising ahead of her. It wasn't the story she'd planned, but it was so much better than anything she could have written for herself. And as she drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, in the home that was now truly hers, Tasha knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The rejected bride had found her happy ending after all. Not because a billionaire rescued her, but because she'd been brave enough to accept help, strong enough to heal, and wise enough to recognize real love when it found her. And that, Tasha thought as sleep claimed her, was the best kind of fairy tale there was. The end. If you've made it this far, I need to ask you something. Do you believe in second chances? Do you believe that your worst moment might actually be leading you to your best life? Tasha's story shows us that sometimes what feels like an ending is really just a beginning in disguise. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to see more stories about hope, healing, and love that wins. And drop a comment telling me, what would you have done in Tasha's position that Christmas Eve? Your answer might just inspire the next story.